Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Freshour. I am the Assistant Director for the Office of Student and Family Support at Creighton. Um, I will be serving as your MC tonight for our Bluejay Family Live Panel, Understanding First Year Course Registration. Um, and if you could change to the next slide, that would be wonderful. We want to give a quick thank you and shout out to our Golden Go Jays Bluejay family sponsors, Cobalt Credit Union and Kookaburra Cookies. They have been our sponsors all year. Just want to give them a quick shout out. If we go to the next slide, just some of our resources that we have as the Office of Student and Family Support. Different opportunities for you all to get involved, to get information from us. We have our Bluejay Family newsletter, live panels, our social media accounts, our email, which is family@creighton.edu, as well as our Bluejay Family portal, as well as our success desk, which the information is seen on the slide. If you need to get any questions answered or reach out to someone, feel free to do so there. Throughout the night, we'll ask you all to use the Q&A function to ask questions. If you all could do a practice with me and go down to the Q&A that is down at the bottom of your screen, there's a button there. And if you could type in where you're tuning in from tonight, what location you're at, that would be wonderful, just so we can see if it's working and get our practice in. Oh, awesome. We got some Colorado, Illinois, Omaha, St. Louis, from New York. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you again for all being here from across the country. That's awesome. All right, so that is where you can ask questions throughout the night, throughout our live panel. Type in there and we'll be able to answer your questions either after someone's done talking or towards the end of the panel, we'll have some opportunities for questions to be answered. Awesome. Great places that y'all are coming from. Thank you for being here. So now I would like to introduce all of our panelists for this evening. Our first panelist will be Lisa Brockhoff, who is the Assistant Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. We have Dr. Mark Reedy, the Senior Faculty Director for Pre-Professional Advising. We'll have Katie Larson, the Director of the Center for Advising Resources and Support, or known as CARS. Dr. Kevin Graham, who's a professor and chair of philosophy, as well as Sharice Williams, who is the Senior Assistant Dean of Hyder College of Business, as well as Dr. Geraldine Cam, Assistant Dean for Academics in the College of Nursing. So we'll have these folks be presenting as well as answering questions that you all may have about first year course registration. So, and if you could advance the slide, I will turn it over to our first panelist, Lisa Brockhoff.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. I am one of the assistant deans in the College of Arts and Sciences, but I do want to remind you that Sharice William, assistant dean in the College of Hyder College of Business, and also Geraldine Cam in the nursing school are with us tonight as well. So the information I'm going to share with you kind of pertains to all three colleges. The first thing I want to make you aware of are the actual registration dates. So our seniors start off registering, and that starts on October 31st. That's followed by juniors, sophomores, November 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then our freshmen will register November 11th, 12th, and 13th. Prior to these registration dates, students will be meeting with their academic advisors to discuss classes and plan their spring schedule. Go ahead. A lot of people, parents and students, have questions about how registration pins are assigned. So freshmen and sophomore students will register with their cohort, and those registration pins are randomly assigned. So that means the whole freshman class will register during those 3 dates. Sophomores will register with sophomore class. When students become juniors and seniors, then their registration pin is assigned based on the total number of credits completed. That means obviously that the students with the most credits will register first. This guarantees them to get the classes that they need prior to graduation. So if you have a freshman student You'll be grateful to know that when they get to be seniors, they're going to have their first choice in classes to make sure they get those classes that they need. So again, freshman and sophomore register with their class. And then when they become going into their junior year, we look at the number of credits completed. Students with the most credits will then register first. Prior to registration, some students may have a hold on their account. This could be related to tuition or fees. If they still have a balance on their account, they need to contact the business office, and that needs to be reduced to $1,500 or less before they can register for classes. So if they have a balance of over $1,500, they will not be able to register until it's at $1,499. Other holds that might exist might be public safety, if they have any parking tickets, library, or if there's been an incident in the residence hall, they might also have a hold on their account. They will find this information listed in the nest under holds and kind of who to contact or the office to contact if they do have a hold. Some students might also have a hold by their dean's office for just being non-compliant. For example, if we've been trying to reach out to a student and we have not heard from them, sometimes we will put a hold on their account just to make sure that they are in contact with us so that we can visit with them. All right, so let's talk a little bit about registration myths. As parents, you will hear a lot about registration. So one of the things that you'll probably hear from your student is that they will say it is so stressful. And it can be a stressful time for students, but it doesn't need to be. So one thing I would say is that students place too much emphasis on getting the perfect schedule. That means they want a certain class at a certain time with a certain professor, and they want that perfect schedule. And that probably is not going to exist. Also, we as assistant deans, as faculty, are watching registration. So we're monitoring the situation as well as students are registering. So and there's always people that can help. So if your student starts talking about how stressful it is, please try to help them reduce that stress by asking them questions, who can they contact, things like that. And certainly that you can always refer them to their academic advisor. You might also hear students say, I didn't get any of the classes I need. When in fact, the students will always get the classes that they need. They may or may not get all the classes that they absolutely want. So for example, a critical issues class. They may have a particular class picked out, but that one may fail and they may have to choose another one. They'll still have critical issues, but it may not be their first choice. Most of our pre-health students will be taking biology and chemistry. We'll make sure that every student has biology and chemistry. So they will have the classes that they need. Most classes, if they don't take it this semester, it's likely they can take it the next semester. So there's very few classes that they have to take exactly in the spring semester. You might also hear students say all the classes are closed. Some classes will close. So we'll always have students that are registering first. We'll always have students that are registering last, but there will be enough classes for them to register for. Now, again, a class might be at 2 o'clock or maybe even at 3:30, and that may not be their desired time to meet, or at 8 a.m., but the classes are available. What I would suggest is that they register for a full schedule of courses, which is for freshmen, 14.5 to 18.5 credits. All students, it's between, most students should have 15 to 18 credits. And then once they've registered, they can watch for movement in those classes later. So they can change their schedules up until that very first week of school. So have them fill their schedule now, register for everything that they can, and then maybe look for openings later on. One thing to keep in mind too is that oftentimes you will hear students talk about overrides. Typically, we will not give overrides if they're open sections. So if there are other open sections of Modus Core or biology or chemistry, psychology, whatever it might be, we will ask those students to register for those open classes. Classes close for a number of reasons. It might be due to the class size. They can only have so many students in a class. It might have to do with the nature of the class or the information that's being taught. So there are a number of reasons why classes might close and we can't go over that number. Um, the last myth that you might hear is no one would help me. So again, please refer your student back to their academic advisor and then also your dean's office. So in the College of Arts and Sciences, we have 7 assistant and associate deans to help students. College of Business also has several assistant deans, and also the College of Nursing. So if nothing else, they can go to their dean's office and someone there will be happy to help them with registration. So those are some commonly expressed concerns that you might hear students talk about. Just some important dates to keep in mind. Thursday, November 7th is the last day for a student to withdraw from a single class with a grade of W. So we have a few more weeks, and they would need to meet with their academic advisor if they think they want to withdraw from a class. Students might consider withdrawing if they have a D or an F in a class. Again, though, a D is passing. So that would be something they would want to talk with their academic advisor and get their approval before they actually withdraw from a class. Other dates to keep in mind for the spring semester is classes will begin on Tuesday, January 14th. Students can add classes until January 20th. And again, that means if they took a class at time that is not their favorite class time, they have until January 20th to make a change or look for other options. The last day to drop a class is January 23rd. So this means maybe they overscheduled themselves a bit. If they're a freshman, maybe they scheduled 18.5 and maybe that's a little bit much. Once they see all the syllabi and see the work that's expected for them, they can drop that class through January 23rd, and it just comes off their transcript then. And then in the spring, the last day to withdraw again will be April 3rd.
Thank you, Lisa. We have a question in the chat for you. So for first year students, when you say academic advisor, who are you referring to?
Yes, for freshmen, it is their RSP instructor. So their RSP instructor is their academic advisor for their freshman year and oftentimes their sophomore year until they actually apply for a major. And I would say most students wait until their sophomore year, at least in the College of Arts and Sciences, to apply for a major.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We will turn it over to our next panelist, Dr. Mark Reedy, to talk a little bit more about the sciences and registering for courses.
Hey everybody, thanks for being here tonight. My name is Mark Reedy. I'm the faculty director for pre-professional programming with my primary emphasis being pre-health programming. So I'm going to talk to you very briefly about kind of the transition from first semester chemistry to second semester chemistry, first semester biology to second semester biology for freshmen. So we'll start with chemistry. We actually teach 2 different flavors of first semester general chemistry. So Chem 203 is kind of the typical 1 semester version of Gen Chem 1. And then for students whose high school math or chemistry background indicated they might benefit from a slower pace, we also split that first semester of general chemistry out into 2 semesters so we can teach the math concurrent with the chemistry. And we call that Chem 102 and Chem 202. So in both cases, to advance from the first semester of chemistry to the second semester of chemistry, students have to meet a certain minimum grade in the first semester. And that is for their benefit. We don't want them to advance to the second semester until they're ready to be successful, because it is much harder to bring up your science GPA if you've had a hiccup along the way. So we want students to wait and take that second semester when they're ready to do well in it. So for students that are currently in Chemistry 203, they need to get a C or better in Chem 203 in order to be eligible to take the second semester of General Chemistry, which is Chem 205. If they don't reach that threshold, then they will retake the first semester of chemistry in the spring semester. If they're in Chem 102 right now, then they need a B minus or better to advance to Chem 202 in the spring. For those students, that would then complete their general chemistry series or their first semester general chemistry, excuse me, and then they would take general chemistry 2 either over the summer back home or at Creighton or as sophomores. If students in Chem 102 get a grade below a B minus, let's say I've got a typo there, below a B minus, apologies for that, then they should, what to do next is very individualistic, and they should talk that through with their RSP advisor. Next slide, please. So in general biology, most of the freshmen who are in general biology this semester are in biology 201, and this is what we call big biology. So this is anatomy, physiology, behavior, ecology, and evolution. And then in the spring, the second semester is little biology, which is what I teach. So this would be biochemistry, cell biology, molecular biology, and genetics. There are a couple of differences between first and second semester biology. One key difference is the second semester biology being more cell molecular in focus, it has a strong emphasis on chemistry. So we take the principles from first semester general chemistry and we apply those in a biological context. So because of that, we have a chemistry prerequisite grade of B minus or better in Chem 102 or C minus or better in Chem 203 in order to be eligible to take Bio 202. The second difference between Bio 201 and 202 is Bio 201 is taught in a traditional lecture format. Bio 202 is taught in a version of a flipped format that mirrors the type of pedagogy that is being used now in the health professional schools. So medical schools, dental schools, PT schools, et cetera, across the country are transitioning to a flipped format for the delivery of their big lecture courses. And so we have flipped Biology 202 to give our students practice and a little bit of practice in that format as freshmen. Most of the students who are in Bio 201 this semester would want to go ahead and take Bio 202 in the spring. But if students are struggling a bit both in chemistry and Biology 201 this fall, then they might want to consider delaying Biology 202 until next year and just focusing on the chemistry in the spring semester. And if you, for students in that situation, they should talk first to their RSP advisor, who will then probably refer them to me for more detailed conversation. Next slide, please. And then we would appreciate your help in just making sure your student understands that there is a step up from high school to first semester of college, and then there's another step up from first semester to second semester. Both for chemistry and for biology, the second semester is traditionally considered more difficult than the first semester. And so I've got a few kind of key tips here for students to help manage that transition. First and foremost, get to know the faculty member teaching the class. Go to office hours, make that effort to engage with the faculty member. I think Dr. Graham's going to speak more to this later on as well, because that's really your student's guide through that transition. We have a lot of resources available, both in the class and in our Academic Success Center in the form of tutoring and things like that. So make sure the students understand that those resources are free and available if they need them. And then, one thing that I really push in the second semester of biology is we don't want students to assume that the approaches that worked for them in high school will continue to work for them as their coursework gets more difficult in college. They need to be very aware and very intentional about kind of their metacognitive regulation, which is the fancy way of consciously focusing on how are they learning? Is the learning approach they're using the most effective for the material that they're facing at the moment? And if not, try some different things. And so we actually build metacognition workshops into the second semester of general biology to try to help guide students through this process. The simple truth is the second semester in chemistry and biology are going to take more time and effort from the students to kind of achieve the same grade. And so students should plan accordingly, make sure that they are not overscheduling in other regards, and keeping up with the material incrementally as the semester progresses. When the material gets more difficult and the pace picks up, it is far, far easier to keep up with the course than it is to try to play catch up with the course. And some students figure that out early, and if some students figure that out the hard way after the first exam, but most students will adjust to the pace after that first exam. And I believe that was all I had.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Rady.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you. What advice would you have for a first year student who currently has a D or an F from their midterm grades for chemistry or biology?
So if they have a DRF at midterm, and if there's another exam that's going to be graded before the withdrawal deadline, generally we would recommend to go ahead and take that next exam. Get as much exposure to the course as possible, because if you do retake it, that extra exposure will come in handy later. Um, the Generally speaking, if the student's on a pre-health track, you don't want a D or an F on your transcript. You're better to withdraw from the course. If the student, however, is part of our pre-professional scholars program, there's a little bit of a nuance there, because some of those programs have specific rules about withdrawals. So those students should talk to their RSP advisor, who will then may refer them to the CARS office, which Katie will talk about in just a moment, for a more specific conversation, because the rules for those pre-professional scholars programs differ from one professional school to the next.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, we will turn it over to our third panelist. Oh, yes, we'll turn over to our third panelist, Katie Larson from the Center for Advising Resources and Support.
Thank you, Morgan. Okay, so as Dr. Reedy said, I'm in the office that works with all pre-health students alongside Dr. Reedy, and also with our students who are maybe in special programs like an early assurance or a Creighton Pre-Professional Scholars program. So as our students are getting their advising for spring semester, a few things to keep in mind. When it comes to pre-health, it's not a major, right? Pre-med, pre-PT, pre-law, they're not majors, right? So they are definitely guided pathways, and that's something that both CARS advisors and RSP advisors across campus can really help with. But I want folks to know that sometimes they look at their schedule, a student will look at their schedule and look at their friend's schedule and say, well, I must be in all the wrong classes because my friend is taking this slate of classes. And honestly, sometimes there is within majors, there's a reason that students aren't on the same track as other folks. A great example of that is someone who is pre-med, but also a math major. For most pre-meds who are not math majors, they're going to come in and they're going to be in biology and chemistry, right? And that is where they're going to go. But those math majors, I need them to take some serious calculus. I mean, I don't need them, but the math department needs them too. So they may be on a slightly different sequence when it comes to their chem and bio, because they've also got to make sure that they're doing foundational things in math. So just know that there's a lot of ways to get to these pre-professional paths, and we have a lot of sample plans that we have worked with the colleges to make available to first year advisors. I know sometimes people perceive that, oh gosh, I'm pre-dentistry, but my advisor is, you fill in the blank of anything that's not a dentistry professor, because all of the RSP instructors are not dentistry professors. And will I get good advising? And I promise you, Creighton is so good at advising pre-health. It's not easy to take those early classes, but it's pretty easy to advise from those early classes, because a lot of them are take biology and chemistry. Great. Take more biology and chemistry. And then next semester, more biology and chemistry. We got you. All right. Could we advance the slide? All right. So just to be clear, we're in a largely faculty-driven advising model here at Creighton, which gives our students just amazing contact with their first-year advisor, their RSP instructor. And so CARS advisors, there's staff advisors in my office that are these supplemental advisors. So one thing that we do is we try to stay up on all of the latest and up-to-datest information about trends, about changes to professional schools that our students often go to, and make sure that our advisors are hearing that. We have monthly forums about pre-health advising, and a couple of times a semester we talk about pre-law advising. So all our first year advisors have some really good information about early stage pre-professional courses. And we got some real experts among our major advisors as well. It's really normal for students in their first couple of years to work with a mix of faculty and staff advisors what we really want students to do is to understand what they want to do and why they want to do it. And we want them to engage with their profession to make sure that if they've long wanted to be a physical therapist, that they're shadowing, that they're speaking with physical therapists, that they're maybe working in the field, that they're engaging with the profession in a hands-on way that helps them understand what they want to do. So those mentoring conversations, that discernment conversation that happens in a lot of places on campus. That's one of the great things about Creighton. So it's really common for somebody to meet with their RSP advisor 2 or 3 times their first year, or when they're a more advanced student with their major advisor a couple of times a year, a CARS advisor once or twice a year. But no student is like, if they haven't had 3 meetings with CARS by, this particular month in their freshman year, they're not doing it right. That's absolutely not correct. There's lots of support on campus, and we are here to provide that wraparound support. And then I think I have one more slide, Morgan. So depending on your program, will depend a lot on your application timeline. For instance, we have some pre-professional programs where students go in, they are applying perhaps after their first year as a Creighton undergrad. For instance, occupational therapy and pharmacy, they're going to apply at the beginning of their sophomore year. So they're going to have 1 full year with us. Then they're going to begin that application process as they're coming back to school for their second year. And then by their 3rd year at Creighton, they'll be in a doctoral program. So that student is going to engage with us really early because they need to get going, right? They're going to take a seminar with us in their freshman year and move quickly. Students who are going to get 4-year degrees, most medical students, physician assistants, most dentists, future dentists are going to do that. They're going to absolutely be part of a pre-health information group in their first year, have group meetings that are available to them, but they don't need to engage as quickly because they won't be applying yet. Also, it's very common. CARS advisors are especially good at the nuts and bolts of applying to law school or medical school or whatever. Like, what does the application look like? What does this mean? This question, where do I put this information that I've gathered? And so we often see students a lot in the year before they're applying or during their application process. We also teach seminars to the students at the time when they need it, when they're getting ready to apply to that program, they're going to be in a seminar with us, which is a group advising meeting. And then pre-law students, looks a little bit different for them just because their prereqs are a little bit different. So whereas every, say, pre-medicine student knows that they need to take a certain slate of classes before they take the MCAT, for instance, a pre-law student has a wider variety. They're learning to engage with high-level thought and logic and writing, but it's not quite as prescribed as something like pre-dentistry or something. So law looks a little bit different, but they do have support from us all through their years here, including group advising meetings, one-on-one advising meetings, and then faculty advising contacts as well. And I believe that ends it for my slides. And I love that we end with pre-law because the next person on the panel, I believe, is one of our great pre-law advisors. But Morgan, do you have any questions before we move to the next thing?
Yes. So how can students find the CARS office?
Students can find the CARS office. We're in the Hickson Lead Science Building, so any of those students taking Chem and Bio are definitely walking by the CARS office. In the atrium, we're right there in the front. We're also available. Our advisors are available for scheduling through Creighton Connect, which includes our office of information.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We will now move on to our fourth panelist, Dr. Kevin Graham.
Great. So I'm Dr. Kevin Graham. My pronouns are he, him. I'm professor and chair of philosophy. And the real reason I'm on this panel tonight is because I'm a longtime RSP faculty advisor. So all the higher education research says that the single most important factor to determining whether a student will succeed in undergraduate study is the answer to the following question. Is there one adult who knows the student's name, understands the student's academic situation, and cares whether that student succeeds? If the answer to that question is yes, student's probably going to do pretty well in undergraduate and going to go ahead and get a degree. If not, I don't know. At Creighton, we make sure that that question is answered yes for every single student by assigning that student a faculty advisor in the RSP program, okay? So that person, the RSP faculty advisor, is supervising something like 15 to 17 advisees who are in their RSP class and meeting regularly with them. So we're just coming up on the course selection advising appointments that are going to be starting very soon. What students can expect to see in those course selection advising appointments is typically some discussion of performance and the current courses the student is taking, an overview of the overall academic progress the student has made to degree so far, and then a discussion of course selections for spring semester 2025 and possibly winter term 2024. This would also be a good time to review any AP credits or international baccalaureate credits or dual credit courses that should have appeared on the transcript by now, because that will affect course selections for spring 2025. So we can go to the next slide now. So when we're making up a schedule for spring 2025, it's difficult to say exactly what a student needs to be thinking about, because the answer to that question differs a lot depending on whether the student is enrolled in the College of Arts and Sciences, the Heider College of Business, or the College of Nursing. But in general, the following will apply. So the student needs to be thinking about completing Magis Core Curriculum Foundations courses. Those courses are listed on the screen. Of those 6 that are listed there, 3 are especially important to complete by the end of the first year, if at all possible. That would be Critical Issues in Human Inquiry, Philosophical Ideas, and the Christian Tradition. Everything on this screen is a prerequisite for something later in the Magis Core curriculum, but those 3 are prerequisites for things that are usually taken in the second year of study. And so in order to be able to progress through the Magis Core curriculum in a timely fashion, typically you're going to be taking each of those things, Critical Issues, Philosophical Ideas, and Christian Tradition in the first year, unless you're in nursing, in which case you probably aren't taking Philosophical Ideas until second year. Also, mathematical reasoning is frequently put off until the second year of study, when students are more certain of their major program of study. In addition to the Magis Core curriculum courses, there may be, if the student is in a pre-health professional program, they need to be thinking about all the stuff that Dr. Reedy talked about earlier, which I will not repeat. about the appropriate pre-health professional courses for their path, if any. This is also spring 2025 would also be a good time to be thinking about taking a major program exploration course, to a first course in a potential major program that's more applicable in arts and sciences than it would be in business than it would be in nursing, because, well, everybody in nursing is like majoring in nursing. Okay, so that's what I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, there's one question in the chat. So the IB International Baccalaureate results came this fall. How does Creighton get those results?
How does Creighton do what?
Get the results from the IB test.
So those, as long as you have designated, as the student has designated Creighton as an institution that should receive the IB scores, those are going to be transferred electronically from International Baccalaureate to Creighton, and we'll process those through a pretty mechanical procedure in the I think even in the registrar's office. But yeah, that's how they get transmitted.
Awesome. Thank you. There's another question about AP classes, but I am not sure about the answer to that. It says, who makes final determination about AP classes and when? But I'm not sure if you know the answer either, Dr. Graham.
Oh, I know a lot about that.
Okay.
So there is a chart on the Creighton website. Probably it's on the Magis core curriculum page. All that somebody who's looking at a browser could tell me better than that, but better than I could about that. But it should be on the Magis core curriculum page, and there should be a list of AP tests, a list of IB tests, and some other examinations that are sometimes put forward. And you'd have the name of the test, the threshold score that you need to get credit, and then the course that you would get credit for and how many hours of credit you would get.
Awesome. Thank you for answering those questions. We will open it up for questions for any of the panelists now from the audience. Feel free to use your Q&A function to ask any more questions you may have to get answers from our panelists.
Can I just chime in here while we're waiting for some questions, a little bit more about AP guidelines and
Absolutely.
IB credit scores? I think the most important thing for students to remember besides ordering those exams is to have that conversation with an instructor. Hey, Dr. Graham, I think I might have AP credit for. Hey, Dr. Reedy, I think I may have AP credit for. It's okay whether you think or if you don't know at this point, but you need to verbalize it so that we don't say register for calc and oh, I took that calc AP exam. I just haven't sent my score. It's very important to have the discussion and then worry about like the administrative things to get the scores in later.
Thank you for that. There is a question about nursing. So Dr. Cam, do you have any advice for first-year students who are in nursing?
So I think a lot of times our students are taking probably between 16 to 18 credit hours per semester. So time management's really key. And we do have academic success coaches in the College of Nursing. So I think it's always good to set up a time with Mr. Mersick. And then we have tailored supplemental instruction through the Success Center as well for those key science courses. So just knowing the availability and open office hours and any tutoring will definitely help your students. So, and So I think that's really key. And just to echo what we've heard, that communication with faculty and your advisor.
Thank you very much. There is a question in the chat that says, my student is interested in transferring from arts and sciences to the business college. Would they wait until the next academic year, or can this happen at the change of semester?
I might need some tag team from Assistant Dean Brockhoff here, but from the Hyder College of Business perspective, all of our classes are open. There are no restrictions. There is no reason why an arts and science student, if they think, maybe I'll try econ, maybe I'll try accounting to see how it goes. I will ask Assistant Dean Brockhoff to chime in on sort of the arts and science thoughts on this. But guess what? We have this wonderful Magis core. So business students, nursing students, arts and science students, they all take philosophy or theology. They all take a critical issues. They all take English composition. Our wonderful Jesuit liberal arts Common Core allows us to do this. A student interested in business might take accounting or economics to try it out, but they can stay in arts and sciences. You don't have to be a business student to take a business class. And your arts and science advisor for your student or their RSP 101 advisor should be able to have that discussion with the student. And if they have more questions, any student, whether nursing, arts and science, or business, they can go to any of the dean's offices and get the information that they need. If their advisor is not sure, dean's offices are always open to have that discussion.
I can take the next one. For students who got some credit from the AP Bio exam, if they are taking the general biology sequence here, that is most likely because they're on a pre-health track. And the advice for 90+% of pre-health students is to take the freshman biology and chemistry at your home institution for a couple of reasons. One, there are some professional schools that can be persnickety about accepting the AP credit from high school for chemistry, biology, and physics in particular. So it's to avoid some problems there down the road potentially. But also remember that the sophomore level courses at the university assume their version of the freshman biology and the freshman chemistry sequence as prerequisites. And I know, for example, at Creighton, there are significant topics that we cover in freshman biology at Creighton that are not covered in the AP biology curriculum. And so if students tried to skip that freshman sequence here and jump right into upper level biology courses, those gaps could impact their learning at the higher level. In general, we do, in those situations, we give students credit for those AP courses, not course equivalents for the regular general biology or general chemistry sequence, but credit that counts towards 128 credit hours for graduation. So it does count in that sense. So if we have, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, fellow panelists, but if Creighton has received the AP credits, then when they are processed, that will show up on the student's degree works in NESS, which they can access. So if the student is not seeing that, then it probably means that we did not receive those AP scores. And so the student should reach out to the registrar's office to see, to verify whether the university has received those AP scores or not. Sometimes it's automated, sometimes it's supposed to be automated, sometimes there are some gaps. And similarly with dual enrollment, a lot of students assume that this dual enrollment course is on my high school transcript. That's enough for the university. We actually needed the transcript from the higher ed institution that granted the dual enrollment credit before we can process the dual enrollment transfer on our end. So if it's a dual enrollment course that isn't showing up as a transfer, that's probably because we never got the transcript from the partner higher ed institution that the student got credit from at.
Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
Lisa Brockhoff from College of Arts and Science. Sorry, I'm having some computer issues, but I wanted to go back to the question about transferring to the College of Business. What I would say is that I would encourage the students to talk to their academic advisor about it. Please remember, in College of Arts and Sciences, RSP meets for the full year only in the College of Arts and Sciences. So they're getting half a credit in the fall and half a credit in the spring. So that would also be one reason why I would encourage that student to just stay in arts and sciences for that full freshman year to get that full credit. However, absolutely, I agree with Assistant Dean Shreese Williams is that we can introduce that student to those business classes. So I would highly recommend that student take Econ 203, maybe Accounting 201 to see if they like it. It's like, how do they know they're going to like business classes without trying? So we want them to try the class before they actually transfer. They can also, as Shreese said, meet with the folks in Hyder College of Business to learn more about the college and their majors so they can make a well-informed decision by taking classes, gaining that information, and then if they want to do that transfer, they could transfer and start their beginning of their sophomore year in the College of Business. So have the student talk with their advisor about that, and or the assistant dean in the College of Business too.
Thank you, Lisa. So now that midterms grades have been posted and midterms are mostly done, I would like to highlight the Office of Student Accessibility Services for the folks who are on this call, just so you all are aware of their services and what support they may be able to provide your student. So the Office of Student Accessibility Services, also known as SAS, ensures equitable access and support for students with disabilities. As a part of student success, SAS provides reasonable accommodations, empowers student self-advocacy, and collaborates with campus partners to create a more inclusive community. Students who would like to request accommodation should complete an intake form, provide supporting documentation, and meet with a SAS staff member to discuss the appropriate accommodations. If there's any questions about SAS or the Office of Student Accessibility Services, you all can reach out to them via their email, which is sas@creighton.edu. And I want to thank all of our panelists tonight for speaking, giving us a little bit more insight about first year course registration. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Any panelists have any final words?
Let me take a crack at this. I see one last question here. When and how do freshmen get their registration pin code? It is advising season, folks. We're coming up on it. Because this is a freshman parent chat, the first day for most freshmen to register is November 11th. Your student may have accommodations and receive an earlier registration date depending on their circumstances and their paperwork on file with student accessibility services. But there is plenty of time for your student to meet with their RSP advisor before November 11th. Speaking specifically for Hyder students, we'll be talking about that in our next couple of RSPs. Let's remember arts and science RSPs are a little bit different, but I know there'll be some touch points and some specific registration discussions and meetings happening before November 11th. And so to get their registration PIN number, which will be different every semester, your student should visit with their RSP advisor before November 11th. But there'll be messaging coming out more and more as we get closer to registration.
Thank you, Shreese. All right. Well, last reminder is that the Success Center is a great spot for your student to stop by if they have any questions or are looking for some support. We have tutoring there. We have our office, the Office of Student and Family Support, located there. So please, if your students have any questions, not really sure where to start, have them start with the Success Center, and we would be happy to assist them in with anything they need and any support they need as well. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I didn't mention this at the beginning, but we will be posting this panel, this live panel online on our Bluejay Family portal by the end of the week. We have this recorded, so you all will be able to refer back to the content there as well. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and hope you all have a great evening.